Good afternoon and greetings, everyone. Welcome to Talitha Cumi, a Faith Migrant Solidarity Hour. I am Deaconess Joy Prem, a United Methodist missionary serving with the Mission for Migrant Workers, a partner of the Asia Pacific Mission for Migrants and Inform.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bong. I am from APMM as well, also a member of Inform Secretariat. So me and Joy will be your host for our today's virtual radio program, Talitha Cumi, a Faith Migrant Solidarity Hour. So this online program is jointly organized by the Asia Pacific Mission for Migrants, or APMM, and Asia Pacific Interfaith Network for the Rights of Migrants, AP Inform, with other faith communities and migrants organization here in Asia Pacific and in the Middle East region.
For today's program, we will be featuring stories of migrants, refugees, and displaced people. They will share with us their stories of wanting to belong, how to deprive, and to hope in the context of environmental destruction and climate change affecting our lives, livelihood, and human rights. These stories are gathered through the help of APMM and Inform's partners in the Asia Pacific region. These stories show the already vulnerable situations of migrants, refugees, and other displaced people after being exploited, homeless, injured, or losing their homes due to natural and human-made calamities.
Do you all know that the Pacific Islands are extremely vulnerable to climate change? Just to name some of the most substantial impacts of climate change in the Pacific region would include losses of coastal infrastructure and land. They have more intense cyclones and droughts, failure of subsistence crops and coastal fisheries, losses of coral reefs and mangroves, and above all these are the spread of certain diseases. So, friends, to begin our program, let us watch this video clip about a migrant story from the Pacific region.
Bong, I think the first story is from Myanmar. So I think the first story is from Myanmar, actually. It's the story of a Myanmar student of theology studying over there in South Korea. Do you want to share a little bit about it?
I'm from Myanmar. Currently, I'm studying a theology major in Korea. Nice to meet you all, and thank you so much for inviting me today. As you know, when I had the military coup in Myanmar, I was in Korea, and I was shocked, and I feel like our country is going backward, and the country is going back to the time of 1990s when the military ruled in the country. And I feel like our country is turning back to the age of darkness, and the situation, no future uh, for the generation and the country. As you know, living in abroad is a struggle one and a bit lonely life. When I heard the news, military coup in the country, I feel sad a lot, and I'm worried a lot for friends, families, and the peoples in the country, and even for myself, going back to Myanmar. Most of all, I feel a responsibility for friends and situation in Myanmar, because many of my friends, many Myanmar peoples, especially the young generation, they came out the street and demonstrate for their rights and for their freedom and justice and for the future of Myanmar. Along with the military coup, actually there is many bad things in the country, like human rights violations, arrested, and injustice, and even the killings many places in the country. To overcome this situation, I think the military general, they should give up uh, their action of military coup in the country, and at the same time, we Myanmar people need your support and your prayers and your solidarity with us. And in fact, Myanmar people, we need a federal democratic country, as Myanmar is a country comprised of different ethnics who has their own uh, language and different cultures. To establish a federal democratic country is the only way to solve and peaceful environment in Myanmar. So for this concern, I wish and I request everyone, please pray for Myanmar, and please keep support and solidarity with us. Thank you so much.
Great. So sorry for that confusion. So that video that we just watched right now is a story from David. So David is actually here in the same university that I'm in. He is from Myanmar. He is studying theology here in the seminary. So he just shared us about the current situation in the struggle of Myanmar against the military junta. So David continues to call for support and for international solidarity for his people in Myanmar, for their struggle for freedom, democracy, and human rights. Joy?
Yes, thank you, Bong, and thank you, David, for sharing your story that brings to, to light for us how the people of Myanmar continue to struggle against the military junta. Indeed, international solidarity and cooperation is necessary in addressing the issues and concerns of the Myanmar people. And our prayers are with David and all of the people in Myanmar as the struggle continues. So for our second story, we will hear from Rina, a Filipina domestic worker currently serving in Canada who survived Hurricane Yolanda or Super Typhoon Yolanda in 2013. The Super Typhoon was one of the strongest typhoons affecting the Philippines in all of history, which caused more than 6,000 deaths and 28,000 injuries. Bonk? Let us welcome Rina and listen to her story of wanting to belong and to hope.
Ako si Rina Taguito. Dati ako nagtatrabaho sa Hong Kong as domestic worker sa loob ng 14 na taon bago ako lumipat dito sa Canada. Kasalukuyang ako'y nagtatrabaho sa isang mayamang pamilya dito at nag-aantay ng PR approval. Nung tumama ang bagyong Yolanda sa bayan namin sa Iloilo, naka-maternity leave ako. 1 linggo pa lamang ako nakapanganak at nanalasa ang bagyong Yolanda. Naranasan kong tumawid sa kabilang bahay na akay-akay ako ng hipag ko habang karga-karga naman niya ang baby ko na nakabalot sa plastic at kumot. Ang hirap lumabas ng bahay dahil nga natumbahan na yung mga malalaking puno sa harap ng bahay namin. At ang hirap na yung bahay na pinaghirapan naming itayo na unti-unting gumuguho ang mga pader ng kabilang room. Nawala ng kuryente ang buong bayan ng mahigit 2 buwan. Kinaumagahan, nakakapanlumong tingnan yung bahay na 1 linggo pa lamang na natapos, na i-renovate, ay nasira na naman ulit. Malaki ang naging epekto ng bagyong Yolanda sa pamilya ko, lalo na sa pinansyal at emosyonal na aspeto. Nagkaroon ako ng mild trauma, kaunting ihip lang ng hangin o ulan. Natatakot na ako at iniisip ko na bagyo na naman. Kinaumagahan, di ko alam kung saan magsisimula. Nagkaroon ng mga panic buying sa mga pamilihan. Di matapos-tapos ang pagpapagawa ng bahay dahil walang mabilhan ng mga yero. Kahit pako sa siyudad pa ng Iloilo na bibili, mahigit 100 kilometro ang layo namin sa sentro. Buti na lang may mga kapatid ako sa abroad noon na nag-ambagan para may pambili kami ng gamit upang mapa-repair ulit ang bahay. Bilang migrante, inaasahan ko sa gobyerno na sana wag nang tingnan kung gaano kalaki o kaliit ang pinsala na dulot ng isang kalamidad para matulungan ang mga nasalanta. At sana itigil na ng gobyerno ang pagbenta o pagpapahintulot sa mga mining companies na magmina ng walang pakundangan, manapay pagyamanin at protektahan ang ating kalikasan sa mga mayayamang mapagsamantala. Sana sa katulad kong migrante ay huwag ipagwalang bahala ang mga nangyayari sa ating bayan. Patuloy na alamin ang realidad ng migrasyong Pilipino, na sana bumuo ng trabaho ang ating pamahalaan upang nadilumisan ang isang tulad ko. Makilahok sa mga pagkilos upang maparating sa ating gobyerno ang ating mga hinaing.
Thank you, Rina, for sharing your story of survival and the ongoing struggle to be reunited with your family back home.
Before we proceed to our next speaker, let us watch this animated film entitled The Home, that tackles climate change and migration.
I don't really know how I survived, but I know why my family died. My name is Joanna, and I come from Tacloban. We were at ground zero. I lost my father, mother, brother, sister-in-law, and 3-year-old nephew to the storm. My story is repeated many times over. Because of climate change, extreme weather events are happening globally with more intensity and frequency. More and more communities are displaced and forced to move in search of safety and security. We had to leave the land of our birth, our ancestors' graveyards. We leave our way of life and go to a place that is new and unfamiliar to us.
We are the world's first community to be displaced by climate change. Good day. I am Helen from the Carteret Islands in Papua New Guinea in the Pacific. Our homes, farms, schools, they are slowly sinking. We cannot grow our own food anymore, and so we had to leave. The sea has taken back our islands. The new place where we were brought to was a landlocked bush far from the sea. We are fishers. We know nothing about farming. We even have to walk 6 kilometers to school every day.
Our farm animals died, and we were also getting sick because there was no water. Assalamu alaikum. I am Kalia from Syria. We love our country, but it's nearly impossible for us to survive if we stay. It hasn't always been like this. Our family's farm was planted with cotton crops that were always thirsty for water. The crisis brought by drought contributed to violence that led to war. There wasn't much help from the government. We left the farms to look for work in the nearby cities, but there were no jobs available. We sold everything we had so we can pay boats to bring us to Europe. It's really scary. When we got to Europe, they turned us away. They said we can't stay there because we didn't have papers.
We have been walking for 2 weeks. I am very tired and my feet are full of blisters. Hola, I am Juan Patricio from Honduras. We left after the floods. Sometimes it gets very cold at night. During daytime, it's extremely hot. My mother says if we keep walking for 2 more months, we can reach Mexico and then the US. I hope they don't kick us out of America. I hope they understand our situation. When I was in school, I remember how we talked about human rights, the United Nations, and how people should help each other out.
Human rights are rights inherent to all human beings, regardless of race, sex, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, or any other status. Human rights include the right to life and liberty, freedom from slavery and torture, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education, and many more. Climate change adversely affects our human rights, especially for us who are already in vulnerable situations.
But why is it that when we move to other places, it seems like we do not have rights at all?
We, migrants, lose access to basic necessities.
Governments acknowledge climate change migration. We do not need just acknowledgement. We need commitment. We need justice. Rich countries and corporations are the greatest offenders in causing climate change. And yet the poorest countries and communities are the ones taking the worst impacts.
They should take the initiative to solve the problems they caused, because it's the right thing to do.
They said they would help, but actually they now ask us to pay for an insurance fee for when our crops are damaged.
It's not fair that they continue to benefit while we suffer. This has got to stop. This has got to change.
We started as victims, but we are also survivors.
We ask rich nations and corporations who are responsible for these to own up and pay up. We will sue those who are responsible for climate plunder. We demand official passports and refugee visas for displaced climate migrants. We ask that governments not to drive us away and respect our human rights.
We demand an international law on climate migrant rights.
We will continue to pressure governments, agencies, and institutions.
We have the right to move. We have the right to live in dignity.
We will not wait to die.
We are fighting back.
We are fighting back.
We are fighting
We
back.
are fighting back.
We are fighting back.
That was a very powerful video, and we thank you, Rosa Luxemburg, Stiftung and Climate Migration Forum, for allowing us to share this animated film.
Yes, that was very powerful indeed. And I'm sure our next speaker will also have a powerful sharing. Our next speaker is Reverend James Bagua, the General Secretary of the Pacific Conference of Churches, and he is fresh from the COP26 negotiation in Glasgow, Scotland. He will share with us his experiences and hope after the COP26 negotiation as a leader of faith communities reclaiming climate justice. Let us welcome Reverend James. Reverend James, I believe you're on mute.
Perhaps that's quite significant considering how little space faith and civil society often get in the negotiations at COP26. But Joy and Bong, it's a pleasure to be with you. Greetings from Fiji. I finally cleared quarantine 2 days ago, so it's finally good to be home again. I don't know about fresh from COP. We're quite the walking wounded. But certainly the video that we just watched, I think, really speaks to the heart of the matter for us as not just people of faith, but those who are entrusted with the responsibility to go out and I don't like to use the word be the voice of the voiceless anymore, because I believe that everyone has a voice and that voice needs to be amplified. But there are spaces in which it is sometimes very difficult to navigate and negotiate. And so some of us have to make that make that journey. Let me begin by saying, firstly, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here. But tonight, tonight in Fiji, as I join you, I am very mindful of our sisters and brothers in the Pacific who are struggling at the moment, particularly in the Solomon Islands, where there is unprecedented violence taking place among communities. Many migrants are being targeted. As a result of that, we continue to have the issues facing our sisters and brothers in West Papua, and of course in Kanaki. These are some ongoing regional issues that we face. And then on top of all of the other issues that we are facing, we have the issue of climate justice, or climate injustice, as I would like to say. What's interesting about COP is COP26. This is 26 years, well, 27 years, because there was no COP meeting last year. And 27 years now, these conversations have been going on. These negotiations have been going on. We're now, with the Paris Agreement, moved away from very strong, almost enforced or imposed requirements on countries to what we call the NDCs, the nationally determined contributions. And so countries can, particularly the major polluting countries, can take their time in these negotiations. They can stall these negotiations, as they have done, in order to continue to engage in extractive industries which continue to harm our planet and our people. And this is the challenge that we face. Many of us came out of COP, and I was having a conversation today with, if you're in that space of negotiating, if you're in that space where you fight for 2 weeks against huge odds, and for every one Pacific negotiator present at COP, there were 12 fossil fuel lobbyists. So you can imagine the pressure on our developing countries, on our climate vulnerable countries, to try and get a good outcome for our communities. And so you come away with a text, this text that has come out from Glasgow, and in it there are some few words, and for many of us, when you look at the negotiations, these words about finally seeing fossil fuel mentioned in a conversation or in an outcome statement at a COP, finally talking about a little bit more about oceans, finally talking a little bit about loss and damage. And so that's the few things that negotiators take when they come back to say, at least we got something. But I think for me, from a faith perspective, from a perspective of spirituality and ethics, we need to say that in many respects, COP26 was a failure. We listened to the speaker sharing about her experience as a result of an extreme weather event, a cyclone, a typhoon. And the text at the end of the video talked about the fact that she is still facing debt as a result of rebuilding, that, the costs of rebuilding after extreme weather events. And these extreme weather events caused by climate change are category 5 as the norm now. And so we've experienced this. We see that story from the Philippines. We experience this now in the Pacific, where we have category 5 cyclones are now from being intergenerational events to the norm every year. And so there is a major concern for communities around climate debt, the debt that individuals and countries are forced to take on in order to maintain and build their lives. And we're going to see more of this because of the extreme weather. We're going to see more of this because of the slow onset climate change, sea level rise, droughts, etc., that sometimes slide in and are not really recognized as well or as strong as they should be. And so our negotiators were fighting very strongly around the issue of what they call loss and damage. So in climate change conversations, when we talk about finance, there are a couple of different areas. The first is adaptation and mitigation. So how do you adapt to the impacts of climate change? How do you mitigate? That means how do you address and manage those things that are happening and being affected? And then the third is around loss and damage, which is really about how do you pay for things that when your house is destroyed? But for us also, as we saw in the video, it's also about, we say, the non-economic loss and damage. And this is really where I want to bring my key reflection, that this is still the issue for us. People don't recognize the trauma of being uprooted and having to go somewhere else that is not your own land, may not even be in your own country, where you might become a second, third, fourth class citizen if you're able to get, again from the video, documentation. And that trauma that people may never ever be able to go back to their land because it's uninhabitable, it's underwater. And the reflection that many people experience as part of that uprootedness is really from Psalm 137. How can I sing the Lord's song in a strange land? That cry of not being able to connect with the land of their ancestors and their culture. We've seen some good movement around loss and damage, where we had, in fact, smaller states, Scotland, which is a devolved country within the Great Britain, I guess you could say, putting in $2 million into loss and damage as a sign of what needs to happen. But those signs are there to challenge the much bigger countries that earn so much from fossil fuel, so much from what is causing this destruction to community, this destruction to land and to society. But we really need to see how we move forward. This year, the Human Rights Council appointed a special rapporteur on human rights and climate change. So when we look at, again, to that video that we saw, when we talk about rising up on International Human Rights Day, this is something we need to call countries' attentions to. But it is happening too slow. It is too little. And I fear it will be too late for our Pacific countries, for our Asian communities and others around the world. And that will be forced into very unequal journeys of migration. And so let's see what we can do as faith communities to support them and to call the bigger countries, the global north in particular, to account. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend James, for such a meaningful sharing about your experience while at the COP26 negotiation and the importance of remembering it's not just economic loss and damages that are affecting these communities. Your experiences and sharings do challenge us as people of faith to continue to take action as a community to support the least of our brothers and sisters greatly affected by the climate change, and for a safe and clean environment where all people enjoy living life in abundance in their home countries.
Friends, at this point, we will be listening to a song entitled Do You See Me? It is a song challenging us to see the plight of migrants, refugees, and other displaced people and to stand in solidarity with them in their struggle for justice, human rights, and decent work. Let's watch this video.
Can you see me in the things that you purchase? in a place where the prices there suit you so well. Can you imagine the place where I'm working? No food and no breaks in a sweatshop that's hell. Can you see me? Can you see me in the shadows and darkness, where my body is sold for minutes and hours? Can you imagine the suffering in sex trade, where dreams are stolen and so is my power? Can you see me? Look, look, and don't turn away. I'm calling to you. I just want to say, see all you can and tell others about me, and help to bring freedom and justice for all. Can you see me? Can you see me in the sweat and the struggle, 300 feet down at the face of a mine? My parents owe money, and this is their payment, a slave for a son, and I'm only 9. Can you see me? Can you see me? I am here all around you. I don't say a word in case I am ill-treated. The servant who should know just where her place is, 24/7 to do what is ordered. Can you see me? Walk, walk, and don't turn away. I'm calling to you and just want to say, see all you can and tell others about me, and help to bring freedom and justice for all. Can you see me? Can you see me in the fields of the farmers who bribe us to be there and won't set us free? Back-breaking work, no matter the weather, picking and packing your fruit and veggies. Can you see me? Can you see me in the shed by the highway, where people are harvested for body parts? My brother lost eyes, and I gave a kidney. The dead are just dumped like trash from a cart. Can you see me? Look, look, and don't turn away. I'm calling to you and just wanna say, see all you can and tell others about me, and help to bring freedom and justice for all. Can you see me? I'm all around you, hidden from vision, wondering if I will ever be free. longing for life, for chains to be broken, longing for sunlight, for justice and peace. Can you see me? Can you see me? Can you see me? Can you see me? Can you see me?
Wow, what an important song for us to reflect on. Our next speaker is Bishop Philip Huggins, the former president of the National Council of Churches in Australia. And Bishop Philip will share a reflection on COP26, migration and challenges for faith and migrant communities.
Friends, join us in welcoming the Bishop Philip Higgins. Bishop.
Thank you very much. I'm here with my dear grandson, Sachin, and he's sitting on my knee and looking at himself and getting a bit shy. Look, it's been very moving to listen to everybody who's conveyed things ahead of now. Can I just say a couple of very simple things? You know, it's a wonderful, I think it was Desmond Tutu who said, you know, the problems can seem huge. What we can do might seem very insignificant, but yet, and he said it with great passion, it's essential that we do it. The problems might seem huge, what we can do might seem very little, but it's just essential that we do it. And I keep that in front of me in relation to these issues. And relatedly, the importance of just trying to stay attuned to the Holy Spirit in all that we do. Just to give a little bit of my own story, listening to David, you know, we've been offering some prayers and things for the people of Myanmar in advocacy with our government, with our aid agencies, and we've got a big prayer vigil this weekend organised by Pax Christi. I went to Myanmar to the border camps, the Thai-Burma border, after the first coup. That's where I first became involved in refugee matters in the late 1980s. And I just fell in love with the people of the country as they tried to come to terms with that first military coup. And now it's all happening again. And lots of pastors are dying. Lots of people are dying themselves. There's the impact of COVID. And then, of course, just the great power operation. So the pathos in David's voice really touched me as he spoke. And then the connection to Rena and the typhoon and all that work. You can see Sachin's enjoying watching himself on the TV. So it's not without its complexities this hour of night with his parents both working, trying to look after him. About the COP particularly, I was going to go to the COP. I went to the first one. That was the movement of the Holy Spirit, and to go there. And as James was saying, like there's some really fine people doing their best to make the COP work. It's a complicated thing. 200 nations trying to find a way of solving this massive international issue. The culture is really quite problematic because you've got all the complexities of nation-state politics going on. When I first went in to Madrid, my call was to try and establish a retreat, a time of prayer and reflection for the people at the COP. We were only partly successful. James was there and part of that. And as he reflected this time at the COP in Glasgow, it was even more problematic. Although there were strong faith communities there, getting their voices heard in the final outcomes was very problematic. Where that leaves us now, as James was saying, really, we're in this crucial decade. We have to cut emissions. The Fijian Prime Minister said to the Australian Prime Minister at the COP, you've got to cut your emissions 50%. We've all got to do that by the end of this decade if we're to contain the rise in global temperatures. As you've already shown, the effects of climate change are already vivid everywhere, in every country. So these next years are crucial. It's great to have this kind of solidarity together. It gives us a feel for the challenge together. Building the bonds and links in civil society is crucial. Civil society, including faith communities, have basically got to force governments to do the action that's necessary. All the things that James talked about, the money for loss and damage, the financing, the mitigation, the adaptation work, and everything that's involved in cutting the emissions so rapidly. So even kids who should be in bed have some kind of future. I can assure you, trying to say anything intelligent in the current settings hasn't been all that uncomplicated, but essentially it's because of the Sachin and his generation that I'm going to do everything I possibly can in prayer and advocacy to make the changes that we know are needed. And just to have faith that with enough persistence, that quote from Desmond Tutu, with our prayers and advocacy and support of one another, we can do everything that's needed so Sachin and his generation can be as mischievous as they like. And happily so. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Bishop Higgins, for your sharing. I think what impressed me with what you were saying, that we are indeed in a very crucial stage in terms of how the climate change has been affecting us all, particularly those smaller countries. And maybe we may relatively do small things, but yet it's essential for us to do what we can do as much as we can do, right? Especially that we know that our younger generations are the ones that are at stake. So thank you again, Bishop Higgins, for sharing with us your response from the faith communities that are standing in solidarity with migrants, refugees, and other displaced people in the region. Thank you, Bishop.
Yeah. Thank you, Bishop. And at this point, let us share with you some of the news from around the region, as well as upcoming activities and events.
Yeah, I would like to talk about the case in Syria. So in Syria, now in its 11th year, the Syrian refugee crisis remains the world's largest refugee and displacement crisis of our time. About 6.8 million Syrians are refugees and asylum seekers, and another 6.7 million people are displaced within Syria. This means 13.5 million Syrians in total are forcibly displaced, more than half of the country's population. Nearly 11.1 million people in Syria need humanitarian assistance, and about half of the people affected by the Syrian refugee crisis are children. Human Rights Watch HRW, a New York-based non-governmental organization, alleged that the Syrian government had abused and detained returning refugees and violated human rights, including killing, torture, kidnapping, and even sexual assault of returning refugees. Most of them have been passed the security review by the Syrian government and have been allowed to return to the country. The organization Syrian researcher Kayali called on countries to suspend repatriation operations to avoid a humanitarian crisis. It is also pointed out that after years of war, there are currently at least 13 million people in Syria in urgent need of humanitarian assistance. And there is also a water supply crisis in the northern part of the country. So to give us more light with what I am sharing with you right now, and to inform us more about this situation, we would like to invite you to watch this video with us.
Habiba and Muhammad, 2-year-old Syrian refugees. For their entire lives, war has raged on in their home country. Their children, they understand exactly what's happening. I feel sad and I feel scared because instead of hearing good news, I hear that the risks and the fear are increasing. As children do, they play through difficult times. This is their version of paper, scissors, rock. Habiba tells me the Syria she remembers is beautiful and shares her message for those still at war. I would say, please stop. You're making me very sad and scared for my country. I hear that the war is about to end, and that never happens. I would also tell them to stop the war, Muhammad says. You are ruining our country and breaking our hearts. The 8-year-old children I've spoken to here today are a stark symbol of how long this war has dragged on. Their entire lives, all they've ever known is this conflict. And the next children we meet are an example of the consequences of that war. While they may have found safety, survival is an ongoing battle. From 10 in the morning until 10 at night, Hussein sells packets of tissues on the street. He's 11 years old. When I first arrived here in Lebanon, I used to go to school, he says, but I had to stop because my parents didn't have enough money to enroll me. Hussein is a Syrian refugee, one of 9 siblings who escaped the fighting in Aleppo. Each day he earns between $15 and $20, which he gives to his parents. I get really tired, he says, and when I get hungry, I ask the people on the street for some food so I can eat. Where Hussein lives in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, 76% of Syrians live below the poverty line, and almost all, 96%, rely on measures like child labour to survive. All of these children are victims of child labour. Gathered together by World Vision for a regular support group, here they share their dreams. Hussein says he would love to be a doctor so he can help his family when they get sick. But as the war now enters its 9th year, it's unlikely he'll get even a basic education. And if you'd like to support the work World Vision is doing to help these children and other Syrian refugees in Lebanon, go to worldvision.org.nz.
And now let us hear a little bit of what's happening in Afghanistan. So in Afghanistan, the decision to withdraw US and NATO troops from the country and the subsequent abrupt takeover by the Taliban have triggered profound concerns among Afghans who fear for the future under the Taliban's rule. Internationally, one key concern is that a major refugee crisis may be imminent, which could swell the numbers of Afghans previously displaced within and beyond the country's borders during prior decades of war. Already this year, more than 558,000 Afghans have been displaced internally. Under a worst-case scenario, an estimated 515,000 refugees could be forced out of the country by the end of this year. Future flight would add to the existing 2.8 million Afghan refugees and asylum seekers around the world, who have long been among the planet's largest humanitarian populations. Afghan neighbors, particularly Pakistan and Iran, which already host more than 2.2 million registered Afghan refugees, and more than 3 million others with varying statuses would be the most affected by any large-scale migration. Let us watch this video to learn more.
Now, to transition a little bit, let me share with you about the process review of the APMM and its partners regarding the continuing engagement of GCM process. The Asia Pacific Mission for Migrants successfully co-organized the second Migrants ECHO Conference on the GCM. It built on the unities and recommendations of the first Migrants ECHO by further strengthening and encouraging collaborative advocacy and action towards an open, inclusive, and meaningful GCM process for migrants' participation, amplifying migrants' issues, demands, and enhancing state accountability to GCM commitments. The conference developed plans for migrants and CSOs engagement in the International Migration Review Forum happening on May 2022. In its progressive statement adopted by 59 national, regional, and international organizations within Asia Pacific and outside of the region, it clearly stated that its 5 demands of migrants are the following. First, immediate aid for all distressed migrants. Second, uphold rights and justice for all migrants. Third, address all drivers of forced migration. Fourth, ensure migrants' meaningful participation in the GCM process. And last but not the least, on our 5th, strengthen accountability and responsibility of states on migration. So for the upcoming activities of faith and migrants communities in the region, Joy?
Thank you, Bong. And so the first activity is the Interfaith Briefing on the GCM. The Interfaith Network for the Rights of Migrants, or INFORM, together with Churches Witnessing with Migrants Global, as well as Churches Witnessing with Migrants Africa, is organizing an interfaith briefing on GCM on the 7th and 8th of December from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Hong Kong and Philippine time. The objectives of this activity are 1, to define the nature and level of cooperation and collaboration in view of the implementation of the GCM and its mechanisms, especially amidst the pandemic and its challenges. 2, to receive updates from different regional reviews and recommendations from regional formations around common work and advocacy. And 3, to discuss and unite around a common advocacy for an inclusive and meaningful GCM process for migrants, faith communities, and civil society in preparation for the International Migration Review Forum in 2022. Also, looking at the impact of COVID, the Alliance of Marriage Migrant Organization for Rights and Empowerment will hold a roundtable discussion on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on marriage migrants and migrant women with temporary partner visas to identify issues for a campaign that will advance their cause. This will be held on December 5th at 2 p.m. Hong Kong time. Bonk?
Yes, great. So this is the part when we talk about the Global Mission Fellow Program, Joy. So
Yes.
So if you're watching right now and you've been listening to what we have been discussing, what have been shared already, and maybe you're thinking of like an answer to all of these struggles that we are facing in the world right now, then maybe this next announcement is for you. If you are a Christian and you are passionate about social transformation, social justice for the transformation of the world, and if you are between 20 to 30 years old, then you can apply as a Global Mission Fellow. So Global Mission Fellows program of the General Board of Global Ministries or of the United Methodist Church is a young adult mission program for ages 20 to 30 years old. And so you will have an opportunity to enter into new communities as a Global Mission Fellow and understanding their challenges and the community's assets through relationships and with long-term goal to overcome systemic oppression. So in this program, you will also have the opportunity to find out or at least understand the root causes of why people are in poverty and, people, issues like migration, gender, and all of this social justice issues. So for more information and details regarding this, you can visit the Global Mission Fellows website. They also have a Facebook page and Instagram that you can come visit. I think it will be flashed somewhere there on the screen.
Yes.
I am Reverend of the Asia Pacific Mission for Migrants, a regional NGO working for the empowerment of migrants in Asia, Pacific, and the Middle East, and the defense of their rights and well-being. We are based in Hong Kong. I would like to invite young adults in the region, aged 20 to 30, who are committed to serve in social justice ministries for 2 years as part of the Global Mission Fellows of the General Board of Global Ministries of the United Methodist Church. Through the Global Mission Fellows program, you will have the opportunity to work with various institutions concerned for justice, peace, human rights, and integrity of creation. You will learn from people in the communities with the various cultures, tradition, and faith expression of loving God and loving thy neighbor. As GMF serving in APMM, you will learn and be exposed to issues and concerns of migrants and their families. You will be given the opportunity to root your faith in the struggle of millions of migrants for human rights, justice, and decent work in connection with Jesus' promise of abundant life. Join the Global Mission Fellows to engage in local communities, connect the church's mission, and grow in personal and social holiness. Thank you very much.
Yes, and applications are open now if you're interested in the Global Mission Fellows program.
Yes, Apply now.
Yes, apply. We're both testimonies. It really can
Yes.
be life-changing.
We're both alum of the program. We vouch
Yes.
for it.
Yes. But we're about to end Talitha Cumi today, and it's been my pleasure to co-host with you, Bong. And so we would like to thank our friends in the ecumenical and interfaith movement for joining with us here in Talitha Cumi, our Faith and Migrant Solidarity Hour online radio program.
It's always a joy being, co-hosting with you at the Joy. And I hope that we can co-host again in some of our events and maybe on our next Talitha Cumi episode.
Yes, let us know.
Great. Okay, so for us to properly end this online event, may we all invite you to a closing prayer. Let us pray. Oh God, God of life and history, help us to see your face in the face of migrants, refugees, and other people in need of compassion, sanctuary, and hospitality. Help us to listen to the voices of all victims of forced and massive movement of people due to poverty, war, conflict, and environmental destruction. Open our ears to the cries of the least of our brothers and sisters denied of their rights and their dignity and deprived of their right to live according to your promised abundant life. Empower us, O God, to be instruments of justice and of advancing the human rights of the poor, the deprived, and the oppressed, like the millions of migrants and refugees in our midst. Be with us, O God, as we continue to journey with them until the forced migration of people will become a thing of the past and until we experience your kingdom here in earth where justice, human rights, and abundant life prevails. Amen.
Amen. And in our last few minutes, I would like to thank everyone who has joined us in today's airing of Talitha Cumi and invite you to join us again on the fourth Friday of January 2022. And so in cooperation and solidarity, we can help in empowering the migrants. Thus, we can say, Talitha Cumi,
Talitha Cumi, migrants arise.
Migrants arise.